Hello, guys. Welcome to Dare to Live with Mary and Jackie. Dare to Live. You know, we're all about encouraging you, we're all about teaching you, we're all about sharing instructions, ideas for time. And guess what? This month of April, I have an amazing array of guests, right? That would encourage you, speak to your heart, and really just, encourage you really. So guess what? I have an amazing person with me on. His name is Babasola Ayantuga. I call him Grandpa.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Basically, no challenge.
You're welcome, Grandpa. So Babasola, thank you so much for taking the call and for responding. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, Mary, for having me once again. Basically, well, a little bit about myself. So I'm just going to spill it the way I think I have it upset. Basically, Babasola is like I tell people. I currently see it as founder of an event production firm. But basically, in a nutshell, I'll probably just say Babasola is a bridge. I think I believe that's the best way I usually have to explain myself to people. Basically, I'm someone who tries to connect people or connect things to what they need, really. And that is not far-fetched from the fact that I have an event production firm that is solely responsible or focused on bridging the gap in entertainment inequality, basically. Maybe some other time I would dive straight into or broaden that better for people to basically understand. But then in a nutshell, it's just basically curb the entertainment inequality, like I used to tell people, try to take events to almost every part of Lagos or Nigeria, and then go global later on, where events are not usually held, basically, or they are probably held there, and they are not the A-class kind of events that you would expect, basically, because we've realized that someone who stays in Kokomaiko, for instance, would have to leave Kokomaiko to go and see a Davido or a Wizkid or an A-list artist perform somewhere on the island, basically, the travel cost and the like. So we're basically working on taking events to every nook and crannies of Lagos, basically, right? There are other terms and conditions attached to that anyways. Then I have also been able to work on a brand, a consulting firm, basically, that I co-founded with a couple of guys, basically. And the idea is just to connect people, right? Connect employers to employees, employees to employers. It has to be even, basically. Aside that, I found myself also co-founding a fintech organization, basically, that's going to be a friendly neighborhood solution soonest. We're currently putting all things in place to ensure that this comes out well. Basically, it's called Vision Savings Limited. It's going to be a neighborhood name, like I shared earlier on. The career-wise, I currently see it as a recruitment officer, right? With one of the fastest growing and one of the most renowned consulting/HR firm in Nigeria, basically, without having to mind to where Philips Outsourcing, where I see it as a recruitment officer. So in a nutshell, Babasola is just someone who basically serves as a link sort of between people's. I think I should actually monetize that thing. Or maybe I've not discovered my talent fully professional area, basically. So it's just how it is, really. I strongly believe that I'm just a bridge, basically. I would not want to see you feel down, and maybe that's the reason why I find myself working in the space of recruitment, in the recruitment space, where I get people jobs, and the joy I see on people's faces when they can afford to make ends meet, basically, aside the salary though that I get, you understand. But then the joy that I've taken somebody out of quote and unquote party, basically, is rewarding So that's I think that sums up who Babasola is, except if there's something else you'd like to tell.
Awesome,
Is it
Babasola. Awesome. So,
really?
guys, if you're looking for a job, you know who to connect
Oh,
with.
sorry. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah,
So,
nice.
in another episode, he's going to share with you how you can connect with him, and
Oh,
you can
wow.
connect with him.
Oh, wow. Disclaimer,
Awesome.
I'm not saying I have lots of jobs on ground, but then I'll be willing to assist, basically.
Of course not. That was just me joking. Babasola, awesome. So I mean, you said quite a bit that you do, and it's just awesome to know, right? So I'm gonna ask you a question. Have you ever experienced fear? Have you, as an individual, ever experienced fear before? Like, I know that, and of course, I'm just directing that question to you, to get an individual perspective. First off, let me even ask you, what do you understand by fear? Let's start from there, before we go into you experiencing it.
For me, fear is. I feel fear is actually it's better explained in various phases of one's life, basically. I feel one of the major things that I've realized is it's just that feeling of, for me, it's just that feeling of rejection. Is it rejection? It's encompassing, basically, but that feeling that you're probably not up to what it is. You're that feeling that you might really not get what you're basically looking at getting, basically. For instance, for me as a person, let me use my case scenario. I had a couple of projects that I wanted to work on as an event producer, and then the fear of the fact that I wasn't going to work, basically. It's just a feeling that what you think should work might not work. I think that's just the way I can define it at the top of my head. If I'm going to have to personalize it, it's just the fact that you feel this is going to work, and then there's something deep down that is telling that look will work because of some circumstances. Sorry, I used your brother that is not going to work. Some unforeseen circumstances, or circumstances that you can even see, right? But you feel like you're not up to the task, basically. Just that feeling of, look, I can't achieve this. I think I might not be able to say that I can quantify or perfectly define it, but it's just that space, that mood that says, look, dude, this is not going to work, right? All things being equal, you cannot do this, or basically. For me, I think that's fear too. Fear of, then I can now say that it's in various segments: fear of rejection, fear of failure. But fear itself is that belief that you cannot do it, right? Society is also telling you that you cannot do it. Your human self is also telling you that you cannot do it, basically. I think that's the best way I personally define fear.
Wow. So from let me just, I mean, it's what you've just said, you've defined fear to just be a voice, right? To be a thing, a thought, a voice that just basically says, that stands in between you and what you hope to achieve, between you and a desired result, between you and a desired outcome. So yes, thank you so much for that. Very, very, very and that was why I had to ask you, from an individual perspective, because of course we could use the theoretical aspect or the definitive part of it and just say, oh, fear is this, but it's more relatable when it comes, from an individual perspective that way, because you've experienced it. So that's what we're moving on to now. I'm sure that you have experienced fear, but then again, I'll ask the question. I don't want to assume, but I know that we all at some point in our life will experience it, right? So I'll just ask, have you ever experienced fear?
Currently, I'm even experiencing it at the moment. Okay, so please, You might need to cut that off once this recording. But then,
I think
so
I'll
you
let
know,
it because I think the idea, right, of this is for us to be as vulnerable as can be, and that's the whole idea of
exactly.
this. I'm not bringing on my podcast perfect people, because even as I speak to you also, I currently have fears that I'm dealing with. I mean, we all deal with it. So for instance, now I had fear as to how this whole podcast thing was going to work out. I've had the desire to just, do a podcast. It has been on my mind to do a podcast. And one day I just started, and not minding the fear, not minding the thought of, oh, people say, oh, will people be receptive? There are days when I look at my podcast and I'm saying, oh, one people. In fact, let me even bust your head, right? So today I had a thought process where I was just like, I was looking at my, you can track the statistics, on your podcast and see how many people have listened, how many people are following. And I'm looking at it and I'm saying, oh, 21 people listened in the last 7 days, but one follower. I'm like, oh my goodness, And then sometimes just like, wow, it feels like people are not engaging with what you put out there as a content person. And sometimes there's a way it gets to you because it almost feels like, is there really a market for this? But I know my convictions, right? Okay, but then that fear is still there, like, oh, shouldn't I just stop? And guess what? Somebody had sent me a message earlier in the day. I mean, because I was up all night, working on another podcast, recording, editing it. And someone just sent me a message and said, keep up the good work, don't stop. And really put like an exclamation mark at the back of don't stop, just to let me know that, I'm not just saying don't stop, but the emphasis on don't stop. And so when that thought process came in and I was gripped with fear, in the process of, in the process of my day ongoing today, I just felt, you know what, maybe I should stop. But then I remembered that a message had come, an encouragement, right? A faith word had been spoken to counter that which I was going to experience. You understand? So I mean, this podcast is geared towards vulnerability, it's geared towards daring to live. It's for people who decide to be courageous. Even with currently dealing with fear, right, that you mentioned, you're still on here, willing to share and encourage others. And for me, that's courage. And I believe that's what Dare to Live really is all about, right? Where we daily just decide to show up and show out, even in the face of fear. We do it anyways. Because you know what, there's a generation that is watching. There are people watching what you do. They might not necessarily applaud you now. They might not necessarily even say well done. But there are people watching you and there are people listening. So I just said that to let you know that I'm not going to delete that part. So this is gonna go on because it's as real. It's as real as it gets. Okay, so let's get back into our conversation. Awesome. Have you said you're currently experiencing fear? So do you want to share that part while we transit into times when you've experienced fear in the past, and then we'll just talk through it.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Mary, for that. For me, where you shared this, I think one of the things I was basically looking out for was just that I was going to also learn and basically grow. Let me be honest with you guys, right? As much as I'm here to probably share a part of my story, I'm also here to basically learn, and to tap from. I feel like when I start expressing myself, I'll start looking at areas where I might need to touch base with, basically. So yes, to put it, fear, have I ever experienced fear? Which area? Look, I wouldn't lie to you, right, Mary, and every other person listening to it. Look, it got to a part of my life that I was living every day of my life in fear. And the paramount was the fear of, look, dude, this guy, we're staying together, this guy, look at where they are at the moment. Can you see that you're on the same pedestal as themselves? So the fear of, can I define that as peer pressure? No, it wasn't peer pressure, it was just, I'm looking for that word, basically. Just that sense of not belonging, or that sense of inferiority complex, sort of. I think that's for lack of a better word in this context. So the fear of being left out, right? I also had that fear then because I felt like everybody were advancing, right? And I was looking at my life and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that I said I was going to do before a particular age, which I'm already going to plug next month, basically. Right? And I started seeing guys that were already doing great stuff even before. And let me tell you this for you, this dispensation of fintech developers, startups coming up and they're seeing $20 million, $30 million. And then when you go and do a research on who the CEO is, you see the CEO to be a 24-year-old, a 25-year-old, and then you're like, oh, what? Wow. What have I been using my life to do? I won't lie to you, that popped up. And then that fear of not being there or not being in the class or not growing. I think the fear of growth, maybe that's just it. The fear of growth, basically. And then the fear of not being able to tick all the boxes of what I had in mind before a particular age, basically. Unfortunately, the age is even fast knocking on my door at the moment, basically. Aside, another one was the fear I had in my relationship, basically. I was in a relationship with, yes, there was a relationship I had, basically, and then felt like I was in a space where I was going to be giving breakfast. Oh, wow. So that fear of giving breakfast alone started making me and one thing about fear is it's just going to keep registering negativity, right? And then constantly keep betting or keep bringing into reality the dark side of one, right? People say that not everybody has a dark side. I don't know, but then the dark side doesn't mean that you kill someone. The dark side might be that what you've been suppressing, like your anger, right? Your being toxic rather, and the like, you've been able to submerge or suppress for a while, right? Then you start seeing the fear will not start triggering that part, and then before you say Jack Robinson, you're already acting in your shadows, like you're already acting in the reverse of who you used to be, basically. So fear in my relationship, then I work. Okay, so there's a particular academic background that would have paved way for a couple of stuff to happen, basically. So there was fear of academics too, really. I'm the firstborn of my family, right? So you can imagine, I'm giving you the breakdown of the caliber of fears that I have.
Wow.
For lack of, I'm the first in my family. My dad is late, basically. Left of 2011 or 2010, 2011 or thereabouts. So basically, so me trying to step into the shoes, and you can imagine you having that fear that, look, if you make a wrong move, right, you're going to be leading 3 people astray. Fine, it was God that it's God that is basically leading people, right? But then the fear that if I fail, 3 people are looking up to me. That's mass failure, basically. That was there too, basically. And yes, I think those are the crucial stuff that I have had to battling with anyway. But then basically, I don't know if that answers the question you asked me.
Yes, it does. No, it actually speaks to what you currently are experiencing, and I just think that it's important that we also talk about this so that we do not get to misleading people into thinking that we're all perfect or that it's a one-off thing, And I think that fear comes in like varying degrees, especially when you're in different seasons in your life, right? So for some people, you think that the higher you become successful, in terms of what the world regards as success, right?
Has been success.
You get to that point and then you think that no more fear, we've overcome and everything. But no, it's just deciding really to choose to live above fear. And I think that even people, the more exposed you are, or the more out there you are to more responsibilities and, and things, the more you would experience some of these things. And it's just important that we do not give people a false representation, or a false hope that fear is like a one-off thing. Like it's just one time it will happen in your life, and then that's the end of it. So I believe that it just comes in varying degrees at different seasons in your life. And it's just important. And I'm so grateful that you got to share this, with me. So thank you so much. And guys, I hope you're listening in to see that, we're just really just choosing to dare to live, really. And that's what this podcast is about, being courageous, just choosing courage in the face of fear, just making that decision that, what, fear, me and you, we look each other in the face and we move on. So I totally get that, and I understand. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, Shola.
You're welcome.
Okay, so moving on, let's delve into a time where you really experienced a particular type of fear that you overcame. So let's talk about how you the fear that you experienced, a particular scenario. Let's just talk about it, all the things that you felt. Let's talk about it.
So thanks a lot, Mary. So I'm trying to run through, because one of the decisions I made before having to join this podcast is that it's going to be as direct podcast as direct as possible. Okay, so out of a lot, I'm trying to remember a particular one. I was having a conversation with someone recently, and I think it was about a project I was supposed to do with DEM. Basically, that's the event production that I run. And then he was like, "Look, dude, it's not like you're not a bundle of talent. You're just not being able to. You're scared that you won't execute this project, basically, and then it becomes a success, because the fear is not because you can't do it. The fear is that you've not been able to define what success means to you, basically. So my fear was largely on, okay, if I sell this project, how do I pay these people? How do I make? How much money can I make? Can I make this money, basically? So that was largely that as regards that. I'm just basically trying to be very, very direct. I'm trying to look for a better one to use. Maybe I should use my relationship. Look, Mary, this is, I don't know who's out there, but then this is it. I had a fear, like that was like that. This should be the greatest one, basically, because fear of losing someone, right? That you feel like you've created a huge bond with, you've created you've created this massive experience with. Could be killing, right? Can be killing. I think I experienced that firsthand. I had a relationship where I invested so much and the whole lot, basically, quote and unquote, within the confines of what so much and the whole lot means. Yeah, within capability. Yeah, I think that's what I can use. And then things started unfolding, right? So it felt like I was dealing with a total stranger. It felt like what I had dished to someone in the past was what someone was dishing to me. And then I could bear to see the face, with the expression on people's faces when I say, okay, look, I don't break up and down, they don't give me breakfast. So Ashola, are you not ready for this thing? So that fear of what people will say basically literally made me still stick to it. And I was approaching a space in my life where I was becoming toxic, right? I automatically had made up my mind right from the outset that never ever will I have to scream at a lady because I'm dating you, or never ever will I, because I want to show you that I'm the alpha or the omega. God forgive me. Basically, I'm not. I'm just saying in this context, basically, where I need to prove to you that I'm the man. I don't raise voice. I will never raise my voice on you. So I felt like I was approaching that space because I was screaming at this person on the phone and the like. We're good now, though. We had to trash out stuff, and I'll tell you what we did. Basically, I've not shared this part of what we did with someone that is very close to me. I won't tell you what her name is because I know she will basically skin me alive if she gets to hear this first on this space. But so I was scared of losing her. I was scared of what people would say. I was scared of the feedback, and then unknowingly to me, I was actually going towards that space that I dreaded the most. Basically, that space of having to snap back at someone, that space of having to shout or scream, that space of having to raise assumption or start having to lose trust or lose interest in someone. Basically, it was just when I'm in a relationship, I trust to a little. I don't even care, basically. So whatever you tell me against what people tell me, I don't. You get. So that was the space I was in at that moment. The fear of losing basically. So
wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, no stones, I'm trying to find the best word to describe that, but it's all about being vulnerable, right? And I think that that's kind of like why you're on here, to also get to share that. In as much as it seems like we've got great stuff going on for us, or some part of our life that seems great to people, we still have our dark days, and there's nothing wrong with talking about it. And there's nothing wrong with owning up and saying that, hey, guess what? Every day is not all so bright and sunny for me. I've got days. Wow. So in regards to your relationship, do you think that this fear could have been associated with can you think back to when this fear started? Could it have been that it was as a direct cause of, I don't want to assume now, but I just want to put it out there, and if it is, I mean, you can just share on it. Excuse me. Do you think that it could have been as a result of the fact that you lost your dad? Do you think that fear was associated?
Okay, so it's not going to be far-fetched from that. Let me run us through something quickly. See, I feel like a host of us basically. Okay, let me just take it. Let me personalize. Let me use me, so I don't assume that it cuts across everybody. We all have different areas of handling stuff, basically. When I lost my dad, right, a church elderly brother, right, came over to my space, and the regular comments, because I was a youth president, I was a team's president then, basically, and then he came over and he was encouraging me, and then he said a line. He said one statement. He said, "Look, dude, that your dad is late." I'm sure he said it from the space of encouraging me to be better. That your late is not an excuse for you not to be successful.
Oh, wow.
You understand? So that mantra was what I was running with. So I didn't give myself the space to be loved. Right, but I was giving love out. Or is it right phrase to you? Okay, yes, I was giving love out, basically. I wanted to experience love firsthand, right? But my quest to be successful made me shut out so many people, because I felt like it was to be a lone man affair. I was supposed to be as a lone warrior, like I was supposed to fight my battle myself alone. Like I wanted to be accountable to whatever success I made or have been able to make, right? Because I wanted to prove that, look, my father is not around, doesn't mean that I can be successful. Now, in a perfect case scenario, because I had places where I'd worked with some people that were really ready to invest in me. Basically, I remember working with an event production firm, and then the man was like, dude, I'm going to continue paying your school fees. He basically started acting like my father, right? And then was like, okay, do this, go and get your school stuff, get them ready. But because I wanted to be accountable for whatever I get from people, I don't mind giving, but because I wanted to be accountable for whatever I give to people, when he wanted to stretch forth the payment of my school fees to me, I stylishly declined. Right?
Wow.
I felt like I felt like I was going to be getting it on a platter of gold. Right? And I wanted to work my ass out to make it. Basically, that was you get, because see, fatherly figure, as much as I'm not saying that there are guys out there who came out who were orphans, right? Excuse me, they tender age, and they came out and they became successful. Basically, they're doing great stuff. We're all different. Responses to losing someone who is quite dear to us might be different, basically. So it affected me, right? I think it's one conversation that I shy away from most times. Basically, I totally shy away from that part. So I wanted that feeling of love. I wanted that feeling of being accepted. Basically, I wanted that. There was a period I was telling you that I think I still act like a baby because I wanted to be baby. I picked up mantle as young as a young dude, and I took some decisions right from there that if the guy was around, right, maybe I would have gone further than where I am at the moment. Basically, his absence also affected this, right, but it's not necessarily a yardstick to why I'm here. I think individually we just need to find ourselves. Basically, we should not tie our happiness or our growth to a particular situation or circumstances. I'm not saying we can overcome those stuff like almost immediately, right? It's a gradual stuff, basically. So it affected me sort of. I was giving love, and I was not willing to accept love. So when it felt like I was now ready to accept love, I wasn't shown. I had a definition of what love should be. I think I had a definition of how I'm supposed to be, how it's supposed to be expressed. So it felt like I was having less of what I was expecting when I even wanted to start showing those, start accepting, basically. The reason why I said that there was a relationship I had with someone, and then the lady was just beautiful, too beautiful. Like, I'm not saying, but beautiful in the sense that she showed me what fatherly love could be or can be like, basically, because I wasn't ready. I didn't understand what it meant. You get, she came and then, would I say I lost her? Well, breakfast happened. Sorry. So that's just, so it does affect some people, basically, and I think it affected me largely.
Wow. Thank you so much. So that was the fear that you had to deal with. Wow, guys. So I said earlier that we experience fear on different levels, and we don't know that some of the decisions that we're making or that we make, or some of the resolve that we have about life, stem from certain things that have happened in the past that we've just stayed stuck there, in our mind, and you just stay stuck in that situation, and you don't know, you think you're moving, but actually you're just stuck because of that fear. It keeps you, stuck. And I mean, look at how, when you were talking and some of the things that it graduated from one person having a seemingly honest conversation with you and wanting to cheer you up. I mean, I think I understand where the man was coming from, saying to you that, hey, you know what? I think it was coming from the standpoint of, don't allow the situation that has happened to put you down or to stop you, from becoming the best that you're called out to be, but
exactly
what he then did for you, instead of going through the process of allowing you grieve through whatever it is that you had to grieve through at that season of your life, you then closed up that chapter and moved on into something, I feel like our generation, right, a lot of us have had to grow through things so quickly that almost seems like the child in us is seeking expression, you know, I feel that in this generation we have that we just had to grow up, you know. Life happened, and yes, and I know that a lot of times we say that, oh, life happens, oh, grow up, grow up. We hear people say that a lot, but really there's a process to how these things should happen, right? And I think that that's one of the things that happened that caused you fear, you know, and just kept you stuck, and ultimately grew into the fear of, you know, losing a person that you would then hold on and become almost like a toxic, you know, toxic. You become toxic to the other person just in trying to hold on to something, right? So yes, I totally get that. Thank you so much, Shola, for sharing.
Oh,
You know, you want to say something?
no. I said you're welcome. You're
Okay, so
welcome.
okay, thank you. So guys, right? This is a conversation, the other side of fear, right? So in this episode, Shola has been able to talk to us about some of these fears that are still ongoing. I mean, that's as real as you're going to get it on here, right? He's talked about some of the fears that he's going through. I've also, you know, shared a bit of my own fear. And I know that you also have your fear that you're dealing with. We all do at different levels, at varying times in our lives, right? But then again, guess what? In the next episode, we're going to be talking about how he was able to overcome. You know, he mentioned in his relationship, right? The fear of losing someone. How did he deal with being served breakfast? You know, probably lunch and dinner too was involved at the point. So we're going to hear about that in the next episode, you know, of Shola sharing how he was able to deal through it, if he's still dealing through it, you know, and also tips on how he can do better. So thank you guys for listening in on this podcast. Shola, thank you so much for being here for this first session. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So guys, please hold your breath. You want to listen to the next episode because the conversation does not stop here, continues. Once again, thank you for listening to Dare to Live with Mary Ajagbe.